There are many forms of awakening. Each person has his own or her own. But there's a lot of literature about awakening. And a word that crops up all the time is what's called abiding, which creates the expectation in people that when you awaken, it will be forever. That this blissful, serene, vast, illuminated consciousness will radiate through you and from you and around you eternally, or more importantly, that there is no you and only illumination and radiance and bliss. And it may be, for some people, that that truly abides, that it never changes. And if that is your situation, God bless, it's wonderful. My experience, which I can only talk about effectively more than your experience, was that somewhere after the awakening, which did seem to be abiding, Bruce came back. Paul Hederman, who was at the core of this awakening moment, was someone I checked in with. He said, "Well, you're bruising." And that was very meaningful to me, because I felt that is what's happening. The Bruce thing is happening. And all I could think was, I'm doing something wrong. That there is awakened consciousness and there is individualized, personalized, embodied consciousness. And that, according to the literature and people you hear talk, anything other than total immersion in oneness is somehow problematic. And so, for the years since the awakening, I have worked with all this. And I hear from so many people in the awakened community, even the unawakened community, that they are suffering and suffering because they couldn't hold on to it. They couldn't sustain it. And they don't know why. And they don't know what to do to get back to it. Now, let me talk a little bit about some of the variations of awakening. One of them is what I would guess I call absolute illumination. Another would be a blast into totality. A complete, absolute awareness of what is, and then back into the self. My experience originally was a drug-affected experience, and you've heard about this, I'm sure, an overdose of LSD that took me on a journey into death. And I spent 45 years after that journey trying to figure out what had happened. And after 45 years of working and spiritually practicing and trying to surrender and let go of Bruce and let go of patterning and trying to open and become freer and freer, something kind of incredible happened, which was a kind of little boop, blip, and I suddenly was absent of Bruce. It just wasn't there. It was so simple. It had taken 45 years to arrive at this space. And I really did feel empty of personhood and full of everything else. And then as I watched Bruce come back in, I tried to describe it to myself as what I call wave particle, which is how scientists describe light. How we are a particle when we look at it one way, and we are a wave when we look at it a different way, but it's all just one thing. And so I began to do something interesting, which was allow for it to be everything. So that this idea that the awakened consciousness as bliss and light and illumination was part of something, but so was Bruce. So was the individual mind. And that when the word absolute and totality came into play, I understood that I'm all of that. I'm not just light. I'm not just Bruce. I am what is. I am that. We are all that. And that is not excluding us, at least not while we're in a body and form and mind. It doesn't exclude us. It contains us and we contain it. It is one thing. It is one remarkable thing. And the idea that you have somehow lost the bliss makes you think that you're a failure, or that somehow you are not one with what is. But in truth, in my truth, you cannot not be one with what is. How could you ever not be one with what is? And that started to create in me an awareness, and I've talked about this a lot now, that even this is that. Whatever it is that. And the awakening for me has become something inclusive and not exclusive. It allows me to embrace totality as both infinite, vast, and eternal, and finite and minuscule, all at the same time. And those of you who followed my talks and know the journey that I've been on, it has been a journey taking me away from truth, which is a really interesting journey, because truth cannot be a solid, specific, permanent entity. I mean, it can, but it is not that exclusively. Truth is not knowing as much as knowing. It is the merging of all opposites. It is the container that has no containment. It is the allowing for all to be and nothing to be simultaneously. And it all keeps coming down to, and you know this from the literature, it keeps coming down to this moment. Because what else is there? There's a was, kind of, and there's a will be. But none of that's at play right now, unless you make it at play. There's only this, with whatever is going on, and whatever is going on is kind of everything you know. Whether you're conscious of it or unconscious, whether it's deep down and buried, or whether it's playing on the surface, whether it's erupting as emotion, whether it is fear, whether it is joy, whatever it is, it is. This very moment is the only absolute and totality that you know. And it is as close to truth as you will get. And the incredible thing about it, as Buddha acknowledged years ago, that it's impermanent. It's not locked in. You haven't gotten it. It's like, finally, now I have it. No, because the minute you have it, it's gone. It cannot be held. It will not stay the same ever. It will not be what it was yesterday. It will not be what you're projecting it to be tomorrow. The thing that you think you needed to have and you get is already past tense. The thing that's so amazing, that's so constant, is that your available to and aware of whatever is. That presence involves this, that you are present to this. And what's really shocking is how many people are not present to this for a lot of reasons. One of them is that they are caught in what was. They're caught in the past. They bring that into the present. And they're in the present, they're very much present, but their mind is somewhere else. Their awareness is somewhere else. And then a lot of people live in fear of what will be, of what might be, what could have been, what should have been. So they're in the present tense, filled with all of this noise, which in fact, in truth, is presence. It's not what is. The noise, the craziness, the insanity, the disturbance, all of that is totality and the absolute. It is the one thing even that you're looking for. Your own momentary insanity is part of it. It's not to be escaped, it's to be, if you will, lived, inhabited, witnessed, shared. Now that sounds problematic because so much of what is in our lives is so unsatisfying, so disturbing to us and to others, so locked into old patterning, so unfree really. It's so imprisoned in a certain kind of static nature. And so many people suffer from that. They suffer because they can't get out of what is. And they keep creating story around that fills the space of what is. So they're very cramped in this very tiny space, and they're angry at it, and they're fighting it, and they're saying, it shouldn't be this way, and why me, God, and all that kind of stuff. And there's enormous suffering. The secret in the middle of all that is everything that ever was has created that moment. And if you can sit in the what-isness of your life, even the static, unhappy, unrealized quality of it, and just say, please help me. Please help me to, in Rudy's terms, surrender. No matter how bad it is, no matter how stuck and how inert it is, if you can just sit down and just find that space that goes inward instead of outward, just go deep, 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 deep. Suddenly, you arrive at this thing that goes, The escape valve, if you will, is right there. It's not coming from somebody else, it's coming from you. It's right inside you. There is this shockingly available, beautiful, home-embracing quality of being right here now. I don't care how awful your life is, if you have the switch inside that will say, whoa, stop, find it now, be with it now, you can become released from your suffering. Not only released, but there is, especially in the middle of enormous suffering, an impulse that will drive you inward. And if you really take that impulse and you go down and you go deep and you go into your heart, we'll say, you go into your heart and you sit in this really embracing warmth on the cold day quality of being, and you're just in there maybe in your little rocking chair inside your own heart, and you get really quiet. And then, as I described to all of you who've ever taken the introductory class, you can discover quite unexpectedly in the stillness of rocking or sitting or being this thing that goes, and I call it the portal, and it goes to a space even bigger than your comfort, even bigger than your normal awareness, something that pervades everything. And you know it pervades everything because it just washes you out. It's just there, and there you are saying, oh, wow. That's yourself. That's who you are. That's your true being. And all of this other stuff that's going on, even if you find yourself coming back to it, you will come back to it, maybe, if you're lucky, with this awareness that it's all a construct. It's all a thing that built a personality and a mind and a history and a life story. It's all that. But it's all built into a tiny little world that is pervaded by this vastness of being that is right inside you. It's discoverable. And either you discover it or it discovers you. It really doesn't have to discover you because it knows you. It's always known you. It's sitting there watching you go through your stuff. And it just has unbearable patience. Because it kind of knows that what's led you to this state of constriction and unhappiness and difficulty has been a series of micro choices from the day you were born. This happens and you chose this. And this happens and that happened and you chose that. Mostly what you chose was pleasure. Mostly what you chose was comfort. Mostly what you chose was something that would free you from unhappiness. And all those little tiny choices have consequence. And the consequence is the thing you avoided to go to comfort had more waiting for you in discomfort. Had you chosen discomfort, you would have learned something. But because you went to the comfort, you avoided something that locked you into that. I can feel better and more protected in comfort and pleasure and whatever. And then suddenly all of those choices lock you into something that is no longer comfortable, no longer pleasurable, no longer worth it. And you don't know how to get out. It's not that you did anything bad. You don't do anything bad. You do everything human in a way, but you're locked into something, and the only release, if there is a release, is death. Freeing yourself of the body. And of course, if you listen to Buddhist teachings and other teachings, even that's not a release, because you carry all that patterning with you, wherever you go. Hindus tell us that the great boon of being is being human. Because unlike the gods and the demons and all the glorious and horrible things out there, human beings are right in the middle, and they can change things. They are empowered to transform themselves. The opportunity to become transformed is happening right this second. Not in the next second. It's not like you're going to make yourself better and get there. This is the second where it's done. This is the time where you do it. Not tomorrow, now. Now. The eternal now. Because what else have you ever had but the eternal now? You know, you never got to the future. You've heard all this before. I know I'm repeating it, but it's so important because the future always comes as this. And you have to work with this. And whatever this is a result of choices and consequence of action, called karma. Everything you did has a consequence. And here you are, and the great promise of meditation and spirituality is you can undo it. You can free yourself from all of the ignorant choices you made and begin to find a way to, if you will, make informed choices. You begin to find a way to guide yourself through the morass of experience, through all the suffering of life. It's so hard for us to do it. We suffer so much in life, and yet you can have circumstances you don't like. You can have a life that doesn't give you the things you wanted, and yet find unbelievable satisfaction, unbelievable peace and joy in the middle of it. Your mind is going to keep coming in, and it's going to torment you, as saying, but, you could have been, you might have been, you should have been, you still can be, you can do this, you can do all that. And you can listen to all that if you want, and you can get swept back up in that thing, and you very likely will. But if you have a practice, you can go, whoa, and you sit down. You don't even argue with your mind, because you never win an argument with your mind. You just sit down and you go, and there you are. And the mind has no control over that. The mind is this thing that's playing on the outskirts. It can't get there. This is letting go of the mind, letting go of the you that you think you are, and becoming the you that you really are. This is spiritual awakening. It is such a gift to humanity. People like Buddha, the great teachers, walked around saying, I have something for you. I have something. You can have this. It's yours. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to do much. All you have to do is sit still. And some people are hurting enough to get the message. Some people are not hurting enough. Some people are smart enough to get the message. Some people are not smart enough. But somewhere along the way, something in every one of us goes, yes, I have to do that. I have met people, however, who've had awakenings. They lasted about 40 seconds. They said, I see it, I get it, I know it, I've been there, I've touched it, I've got it, it's mine, I got it. And then they sign book contracts. And they go out and teach the thing that they saw and they knew and they felt. And it's okay. It's okay to do that. But you can find a way of going back into this space and create, if you will, an abiding awareness. And if you're really smart, you will realize that that abiding awareness does not only exist in bliss and in oneness and in illumination. It's still there when you stub your toe. It's still there when you have a bad day. It's still there when your kids don't call you back. Whatever the thing is, it's there all the time. And that's the amazing thing about presence and abiding consciousness. It's there no matter what is going on. So if your mind is telling you this is abiding and this is not abiding, no. The mere fact that you have consciousness and presence means it's abiding. Therefore, every one of you in this room and who's listening to this has abiding consciousness. You just have a mind that's saying one form of it is better than another. That's not true. It may be more comfortable, you may like it better, it might be easier, but it's not a problem. The problem is the mind has a problem. I had a really crazy week. And I bring it up because it taught me so much. This is one of those weeks, like, I guess you call it Mercury in retrograde, although I don't know if Mercury's in retrograde. But when everything messes up on your computers and everything goes wrong, and I had a problem, I won't go into the specifics of it, but it got me on the phone with, it started out with AOL, then it went to Apple and Mac, and I had 3.5 hours, which is, I guess, not terrible, of constant calling the company, being told after 20 minutes or an hour they can't fix it, they'll send me to somebody else, people hanging up on me and having to start all over again. You've all been there. You've all been there. I just sat there in a state of absolute okay. There was not one bit of anger or discomfort or why me. This is what is. And I just sat there. I don't remember ever doing that before. Mm-hmm. And I looked at myself and I said, this is interesting. This is what it is. You're just not, there's nothing in your mind attacking the what-isness of the day. You're just going through what's unfolding. I had all sorts of other stuff I should have been doing, but the should have went away. This is what I am doing. This is what's happening. And it was a blessing. The next day, it's a long story, but I hike a lot. And I was walking up a hill, and I've been having this growing thing of chest pains walking up a hill. And this time, it was so bad that I had to come home, which haven't happened. And I ended up going to a doctor and told him what was going on. And he said, this is called stable angina, and we got to do a procedure. So suddenly, my entire day got taken up with getting x-rays and getting blood tests and doing all this stuff. I had no plans for that. And the next day I'm in the hospital. This is like Thursday. And they're doing a procedure, and they're going in through my wrist, and they're knocking me out, and they're doing all this stuff. And the whole time I'm just going, okay, what can you do? There's a great line in this movie that's out now called The Bridge of Spies, and there's the bad guy, supposedly the bad guy, spy, is there, and the good guy is saying, aren't you worried? Aren't you worried? And he said, would it help? and that's exactly how I felt. Would it help? So I wasn't worried. And they did this thing, and they went in, and they discovered that I was seconds away from a fatal heart attack. And I had no idea. And and they found it. They went in, they put in a stent, they opened it up, and they said, okay, we did it. And had we not done this thing, I wouldn't be here. That kind of awareness, that kind of understanding of life, and how unknown it is, how insecure it is, how it is what it is. And it was interesting because I was very grateful to be here. I came out of it like, well, that was good. And I felt wonderful, and I shared this with my family. I didn't share it with a lot of people, but family. And then I got home from the hospital the next day, and I started having chest pains. And I went, then I got emotional. I said, because now they had done everything to fix it, and then I thought maybe it's not fixed. And that got scary and emotional. And so I went back to my doctor, and we talked about it, and everything was, he said, let's analyze all this. And he thought, this does not appear to be your heart. This appears to be something else. And it may even be that what brought me to you was not your heart, but something else. For me, it could be acid reflux or something of that nature, because I have had these issues my whole life. But if that's what it is, my acid reflux saved my life. It brought me to the doctor to look inside me and see, oh my God, you've got an artery that's collapsed, and you can go in a second. So it got fixed. So there are still issues. I'm telling you this not to get sympathy, because I don't care, but because it's the human journey. It's the human journey. We are, in a way, protected and looked after, and on another level, when it's our time, it's our time. And you have to live that. You have to live on that edge, and you have to live it with either fear and anxiety or love and preciousness for every second. And it is that for me. And you all know my love affair with my grandchildren. They bring life to me that most adults can't. They just bring this richness of being and joy moment to moment to moment to moment, and I never get bored. I never go, oh my God, I got to play with the kids. I light up because they are alive like nobody is alive. And then my son is in town from Los Angeles, and he and I love my son, but we don't always have an easy relationship. And I was telling the new students today, we started to sit down for a talk last night, and I could feel my heart starting to go, oh God, and I starting to close down. And I just said, I know how to counteract that. I just take a breath, open my heart, ask for help to surrender, and my heart opens. I just do it. It's not like I have to sit there and go through an entire evening with somebody with my heart closed, because I have a choice. I can do this thing. I can open myself up. And so I just opened myself up, and we proceeded to have this exquisitely beautiful conversation, the kind of conversation you want to have before you leave the world, basically. And so if tomorrow, in the next second, I was gone, and that's not, I guess, any more inconceivable for me. If that was to happen, I have been having these exquisite, what I call grace notes in my life, of having closure in beautiful, beautiful ways. Because when you're done with your life, what you ideally would like to have is no reason to come back. The unfinished business, the thing you didn't do, should have done, wish you had done, you want to do it. Or else, you want to make peace with not having done it. You want to know it's okay not to have done everything that's possible. I won an Oscar, which I guess is a very big deal. But there's a part of me that said, you've got to win 2 Oscars so you have one to leave to each son. That was my feeling. If I could have one for each son, then I could leave the world without thinking, who's going to have it when? And I even asked them, I said, who should I give it to? Would you do me a favor and give it back and forth to each other once in a while or something like that? They both said, we don't want your Oscar. They had no interest. It was my big deal, not their big deal. So now I don't have to come back. I don't have to write another movie. I don't have to go through that whole process. I don't have to win an Oscar, and they can take the Oscar and I don't care what they do with it. I don't care. I don't have to live with those kinds of issues. The idea is free yourself of your stuff. Free yourself of whatever story stuff you have going on that makes you think you're not good enough, or you're not there, or you've got more to do, or that it didn't happen. Get rid. It's just a story. It's just stuff you told yourself. And when you start to see the abiding consciousness of presence, that no matter what's going on, it's all part of this unbelievable, unknowable, unrealizable truth of being. And you can never figure it out, ever. Anytime you think you know it, you're going to be wrong, because it's so big and it's so beyond the human mind to ever grasp it. You have no idea. When you see the ineffable, it's not that you go, oh, I get it. It's like, I'll never get it. I am that which doesn't know what it is. I am that exquisite reality, which is both beautiful and terrible. It's not just beautiful. It's not just light. It's light and dark. It's everything. Those of you who are looking for permanent light are going to be very disappointed, because it doesn't play that way. Now, it may have something that beyond it, in a sheath beyond all of this, that is all light. I don't know. I mean, I've had intimations of that, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Here's what matters. You're here now. You're happy or you're unhappy. You're satisfied or you're unsatisfied. You are whatever your story and your mind are telling you. But you can, at any given moment, sit still, open your heart, enter this portal of awareness, and just go, thank you. And you get filled with gratitude. You feel lucky to have been in this moment. You feel lucky to be in this moment. There's no past tense in it. You understand the truth, vastness, unknowability of what is, and you take it in. Or it takes you in. That's the ride. You know, and if you're looking to get to somewhere or to get something, God bless. But I can only tell you, you're already there. Wherever you're trying to get to is not anywhere other than this. And that's the oldest message in the non-dualistic system. You know, that's Advaita Yoga. You are what you're looking for. It's so beautiful. Rudy used to have this image that I found really fascinating. He said, as you awaken, it's like you have a white suit, complete white suit, white tie, white pants, white shoes, and there's a stain on that shirt. And where is all of your attention? Where is your attention? Where's your embarrassment? Where's your shame? Right there. You can't get rid of this. Hi, how are you? It's good to see you. You live a life like that. All of us, we have this illumination everywhere, and we all have little stains. Those stains, the best way, you can't really rub them all out. They're in a way a sign of humility. This is who I am. I'm a stained person. You can stare at the stain if you want, or you can look at the rest of the white suit. It's completely up to you. You can do whatever you want. This is who I am. And we all have a stain, or several stains. We all have stuff we call shame and secrets and hidden stuff. And it's going to be right there. It's going to just, it may not be distinguishable, but you'll know, oh God, they got a stain. Once you go, we all have stains. We all have white suits. And every one of you, for me, are white-suited people, if you will. I look at every one of you, and I see the stain, and I just look at it and go, I love the stain, if you will. I enter the stain so that by allowing it to be accepted and honored and recognized rather than run from and hidden from and buried, you become really humble. You become really open, and you go, this is what you got. You know, I had to walk around the hospital the other day wearing these robes, you know, and all these things hooked up to me, and they told me to walk as much as I could. So I just kept walking. I was the worst looking sight in the hospital, you know. Nobody looks good in those robes. And I'm walking up and down, and you know, 5 years ago I would have been really ashamed to look like that, to be out in presence, people walking around me, you know, looking at me like, you know, I did not care. I did not care. I loved walking. I loved being in that space. I loved that I could move and I had a body and I was alive. That's what we want to get to. We all want to get to that. And in a way, you're already there. Just be there. Just be there. You know, not to know that you're there is the saddest thing in the world. One of my students in LA who's actually writing a biography of me and taken from a lot of my talks, and he's a wonderful person. And he wrote me a note the other day. His name is Joe Madry. And he said, you know, I was sitting the other day looking at the tile on the wall and I went, I am that. And then he started looking at everything else in the room and going, I am that. And it's just like, he suddenly just knew. I am this. And it was so simple. It just kind of hit him. And that's all I'm looking for any of you to do, is just look at, you know, whatever, the screen or something. The outside, of course, here it's so beautiful. You don't know how to say I am that. You know, when the rain came this morning, you said, I don't want to be that. But say yes to it. Just keep saying yes to I am that. That's all you're looking for. And then when you discover what that is, that you are, you bow down, you prostrate yourself before what is, and you just cry and say thank you. That's what we're heading for. That's abiding consciousness. It's not bowing down to the light. It's not bowing down to the darkness. It's bowing down to what is, and it's right there now. Right there. That's what I keep trying to tell everybody. Stop the journey. Stop looking for anything. It's in front of you. It's in front of you. You're looking at it. And right now you're looking at me, so you're saying, well, that's Bruce. No, no. You are here listening and hearing a truth. It's not my truth. It's a very ancient truth that I happen to be journeying through and sharing, but it's your truth as well. And there's a reason you're hearing it, and there's a reason you will share this in your own way with everybody else. It doesn't belong to anybody. It is the journey's truth, and the journey's truth is you are that which is. You are that. It's a great ride, and it's what we're here for. And it's short, and it's not permanent. So use it. Use it well. Wake up now. Don't wait for the right circumstances, because there are no right circumstances. They're never any better than this one. Just do it. And I know that's very frustrating. People go, what do I do? What do I do? You don't do anything, really. You just go, okay. That's all you can do. And even though you think this isn't the way it should be, you're wrong. This is exactly the way it should be. And just say, okay, wow. Done. Any questions?
In the awakened, enlightened community that you're talking about, how does the meditation practice change before and after? Because I've heard some people say they don't feel the need because they're living.
Well, I think I've talked about this on the Buddha at the gas pump interview. I stopped meditating once the awakening took place, primarily because I thought, what am I doing with the meditation? I'm trying to get to a place. And that trying to get there was endemic in my sense of the universe. I have to try to get there, try to get there, try to get there. Awakening said, you are there. What are you trying to get to? But then the mind kind of goes, but this is it? And then you go, this is it. And that's a change. But a lot of people who awaken, I have discovered, I've talked about this, are very incomplete in their, I call it the chakra system. Their gut's not open, their power base isn't achieved, their heart's not open, their brain isn't open, or there's a mix-up of energies. They're not flowing very well. They're fine, they're there, and it may be enough, and I'm not trying to say that they need to change, but if you want at all to align yourself deeply with what is, the particular practice that we do is very effective. I know that because I've done it for 45 years, and it has given me a very full life. Mostly meditation is sitting still. Sitting still leads you into stillness. Out of that stillness, awareness arises about everything that is. It pervades everything that is, and you start to look at life differently. So it has great value. I'm very much a promoter of meditation, and my own experience, as I described a few minutes ago, is when you need it, it happens. When I needed to open to a dialogue with my son that was about to take place, I took a deep breath and prepared myself for what was coming. I didn't just sit there and let it happen in its own terms, because it would have not gone as well as it might. And I knew there was a lot of option here and a lot of opportunity, and it worked. So I'm a big supporter of meditation, and I've talked about this a lot. I hate this idea of what you call the awakened community and the unawakened community, because what one's really trying to say is that minus the noise in your brain and the story you're telling yourself, you are awake. You are present. You are here. That's all you are, is presence. And the idea that you think you're not or tell yourself you're not is the only thing that needs to change. And how do you change that? Well, that's proven to be a big problem, because a lot of people can't hear it. There's always what we call the but. But I had a terrible childhood. My mother didn't love me. This happened. That happened. We all have buts. And all those buts prevent us from being aware of how simple and true and one we are with all there is. 45 years it took me to finally go, oh, I don't know what to say about that. But it does not, as I said last week, present me in an exalted state. It just immerses me in the oneness of what all of us are. It's not special. It's the opposite of special. It's totally humble. Totally humble, because you're nothing. You're nothing. As are we all, in a way, nothing. But we're also here with lives. We're all here with dramas, and we're all here for some reason that I don't even understand, except I begin to see, through living, we can have this opportunity for this awareness to dawn. That's an amazing thing. Because they say in the Upanishads, the gods can't do it. They have to be born again as humans to get there. That's a really interesting thing. You have to go through the various stages to come back to this gift of human life. And this is the opportunity. So not to do it while you're here is a wasted experience, and that has consequence. If you come to the end of your life and haven't done it, and you don't do it, there's a great tragic sadness around that. And I believe you come back with another shot at it. I mean, I think that's how it works, or it may take a long time. But I have to say, when you leave this world, my experience from my experience, it's big. What you go into is big, and it's timeless, and it's vast, and it's infinite and eternal. The idea of getting another life is like a minuscule possibility. They say, the Buddhists teaching, the opportunity to have another life is like putting a donut, or let's say a bagel, on the surface of the ocean, and a fish circling right through the middle of it. What's the likelihood of that? It's like, this is a gift. This is it. This is the time. This is the opportunity. It's now. It's not tomorrow. It's not another lifetime. It's not billions of years from now. It's now. Not to create tension around it, because it's not it's not tension producing. It's like, oh, this is it. Wow. The ride home is it. Sitting with your best friend is it. Watching a terrible movie is it. Whatever it may be is it. And once you stop going, it shouldn't be that way, but it is it, this amazing thing happens. You just go, oh. It's all instructive. It's all teaching. It's all informative. And it's all liberating. Just liberating. Liberates you from having to have it your way. Not having it your way makes it free and wonderful. Having it your way, you struggle like mad because it doesn't align easily to have it your way. They will do it. The universe will give it to you your way ultimately, but they have to move time and space to do it. And they do. They do. It's yourself. It's yourself giving you a life. But it doesn't happen like that. It takes years and decades sometimes to give you the very thing you want. And then you get it and you go, this is it? Because no one knows how to be appreciative. You have to go, wow, thank you. Thank you. And I've had one thing after another, given, and I am nothing but grateful. Nothing but grateful. Of course, a number of the things that were given, I had to leap for. I had to make leaps of faith. And somebody wrote an article in, I think, Buddha at the Gas Pump page saying, don't tell people to leap for faith because a lot of people will fail and then they'll be miserable. Okay. I won't say to do it. On the other hand, it worked for me. It worked for me. I said, I'm in your hands, God, take me. That's what I did, and I was taken. And I've lived that. I've quit major jobs to live in a little ashram in Indiana. I was the curator of a museum, the Whitney Museum in New York. And I said, I need my spiritual life more than I need this. And I left. Most people wouldn't do that. As a film editor at NBC, I said, no, I got to find my spiritual life. And I gave it up and went to India. I've done those things. And you know what it did? It said to the universe and it said to myself, this guy's serious. This guy wants this thing. And if you tell him hard enough and long enough and deeply enough, they'll go, okay, here it is. If you just go, hey, can I have that, please? Well, now they don't even say please. My granddaughter never says please. Can I have that? I want that. I want that. Well, it's very hard for me to give it to her. I go, say please. Say please. Say thank you. And she's learning. She's learning. But most people just give it to me. God and Bruce do not like to give stuff to people who don't really want it and don't say thank you and don't say please. So I think that's kind of how we have to function in the world. We really have to make our needs known, and they're bigger than worldly achievement and worldly stuff. Even though they gave me all that stuff. Like I said, I don't know what to do with the Oscar. It's not the thing. It's the journey to it that's so important. It's so important. There's nothing you can attain that will be more important than what you already are. Ever.
You can write Ghost 2 and have 2 Oscars.
They asked me to write Ghost 2 and they offered me tons of money. And I said no. I said it was said in the first one.
Is portal you talk about with the heart like an awakening almost? I mean, when you enter that spot with openness,
Your
it
portal,
certainly feels that way, but
yes, the portal in the heart is like an awakening. And it's available. I don't know how to make them different, really. The difference in a way is that you can't live there. You have to go back to work the next day. You have to do the laundry. You can carry that, but it's unsupportable for most people. And then that's where you think you're failing and I can't do it. And you want to go live in a cave or you want to go on a 20-month retreat, where you don't have to do anything but live in that place. That's not necessary. Again, that experience is wonderful, but it's not. This experience is wonderful. But doing the laundry experience is wonderful. All of it is wonderful if you're in the right mindset, which is basically not looking at benefit, just looking at this is what it is. The dishes have to be washed, you wash the dishes. You don't go, why do I have to wash the dishes all the time? That's going to cause you grief. You just wash the dishes. It becomes very simple.
it's one thing. The difference when you were living before the aha, which is the awakening, you knew all this before that. I'm guessing you kind of went through this anyway, you've been with it enough.
I think
and it is that aha that also gets in the way.
Yes,
that's seeking.
That's good.
And that's the difficulty that even hearing you have it, if you haven't had that, but see it all anyway, there's that subtleness.
I agree with you.
Okay.
The aha is, it's you think it's a defining moment, you think you've arrived, you think something's happened, and that automatically almost disqualifies you from it. You have to let go of it.
Right.
And a lot of people don't. Like I say, they write books and they teach and they do all these things. I'm telling you, it doesn't make you a knower of things, it makes you a not knower. And it makes you humble. Because you don't know. You just don't know. There's no way to explain how much is not known. All you can do is live in that space and go, I'm alive and not knowing. It's really remarkable. Can I?
This is probably a small tangent and an incredible miracle what we're talking about, but in this moment I'm having trouble getting to being the screen, and I was actually thinking I am the screen as you were saying that. At times I can feel that any object or thing or experience is alive, has its own spirit, but how can you, and is it important?
It's the frustration that I hear all the time. One, how do I get it?
then how do I hold on to it? What do I do with this awareness? There's so many questions that come up. But the biggest frustration is, how do I get it? And it's the hardest part for me, because I can only tell you you have it. And I know you have it. When I sit with you and I feel your heart and I feel who you are, you're vast. You are a vast being. You've been a vast being since the minute you walked in here. But you have a very cloudy, noisy brain that is constantly diminishing you on some level. I do not know why you do that or why anyone does it, but you do. If you can just get quiet enough, long enough, to start to say either no to it or just not pay attention to it, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. It's just, you tell yourself a terrible story. You've been telling yourself a terrible story for a very long time. I'm telling you a new story, and hopefully it's a better story. You are a totally wonderful, beautiful, radiant human being who I love. I love. And I would love you to feel that. And all I can do is communicate that to you until it finally sinks in. The way Rudy did to me. Rudy used to hug me, and I would hug Rudy. And I would go, like I'd melt in his arms, And then he would say to me once when I first did that, he says, that's what love is. It's like hugging your mother when you're 4 years old. That's what love is. It's not, it's grand, romantic Hollywood thing. It's so simple. And that's what you start to feel when you're really deep inside. And that's what I want you to feel. And if I repeat this week after week after week, maybe you will. But it's not me that's doing it. It's your coming here that's doing it. It's you getting on the freeway and saying, oh God, I got to get on that freeway again and go to that class. Doing that is what brings you to this. And that's what it takes for everybody. You've got to do that to get it. You have to go through the stuff you don't want to go through, because, like I said earlier, it tells the universe you want that.
I'm kind of there. I'm also noticing that it's really what you said. Maybe those decisions are little things you hang on to, which probably they're not real ones that you hang on to.
They're old.
That cause the falling.
You set them up when you were very young. I'm watching my grandson. I talked about this. He's 2 years old. I can see the things he's already set up. He's built in a lot of fear already. And I can see it. And I'm not sure that I can undo it, but I can be with him while it's there and maybe help him see it differently. I don't know. But, we all get to the point where we need to go to the shrink or whatever we do, or go to a meditation group and start to undo the thing that happened. But there's very few people who don't weave those horrible problems into their life up front. We're built to do it. And, again, I don't want to do a whole philosophy thing, but the world needs us to do that, because that's how the world gets built, out of our frustration and our need for recognition and our need, to build Trump Tower, to do all of these things. We have to become really ego-driven in the world, or we would just sit and do this. The world wants our activity, but we're like slaves, and I'm trying to say you can be free within your chains. You can't get out of the chains, but you can be free within it. That's a great thing. And as long as you're in a body, you're going to have to do stuff. You have to eat. You have to sleep. You have to socialize. You have to do all these things. You can do it in a way that's joyful, like sitting for 3.5 hours on the phone with AOL and Microsoft, or whoever they were. You sit and you just go, okay. There was no tension. There's no anger. There's no hostility. There's no why me. It's just okay. This is what it is. It's a wonderful way to live if you can get there. Okay, guys. Thank you very much. Next 2 weeks are in LA, and then we'll be back here on the 3rd of January, and we'll continue classes for some of January. I believe Blanche and I are going to Australia I don't remember, the last week or so of January and early February to the musical of Ghost. Speaking of, I don't know, Ghost School. The musical of Ghost is opening there, and we're going to go support that and do publicity. And then we'll be back, and we'll see how things continue. But I love that you're here. You're all welcome to come back, and or you can just stay home and listen to these on the computer, or you can go on and find other teachers who are saying the same thing in ways that may speak to you more directly. Whatever it is, find the thing that speaks to you. That's really important, and take it to heart, because this is worth it. It's really worth it.